another time. Amen. God is good. If you would turn with me this morning to Luke, the 14th chapter. Luke, the 14th chapter, beginning verse 28. I'm going to read 28 through 30 from the Message version. So, emphasis on this morning. He says, is there anyone here who, planning to build a new house, doesn't first sit down and figure the cost so you'll know if you can complete it? If you only get the foundation laid and then run out of money, you're going to look pretty foolish. Everyone passing by will poke fun at you. He started something he couldn't finish. I'm going to read it one more time. Is there anyone here who planning to build a new house doesn't first sit down and figure the cost so you'll know if you can complete it? If you only get the foundation laid and then run out of money, you're going to look pretty foolish. Everyone passing by will poke fun at you. He started something he couldn't finish. You may be seated this time. We'll use the title this morning. Don't put Jesus back on the shelf.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. Don't put Jesus back on the shelf. There's a quote that I found curious from the great conqueror Napoleon. He says, I know men, and I tell you, Jesus Christ is no mere man. Between him and every other person in the world, there is no possible term of comparison. Alexander the Great, Caesar, Charlemagne, and I have founded empires, but on what did we rest the creations of our genius? Upon force. Jesus Christ founded his empire upon love, and this hour, millions of men would die for him. He says in this hour, he says millions of men would die for him. He says all the great conquerors and I myself, we all founded our empires upon force. He founded his empire upon love. And this hour, millions of men would die for him. Jesus Christ right here is telling the people the cost, if you will, of being his disciple. He's saying, like we began last week, he's saying the cost is to carry your cross. As we said on last week, review, carrying a cross, when you saw someone carrying a cross, it meant death. People did not carry crosses just for fun. If you saw somebody carrying a cross, you immediately, in this day and age, you really knew, okay, that person's going to get executed. If you saw somebody with a cross, it brought sorrow to your heart, and you're like, oh man, I wonder what he did. Things like that, because they were going to be executed. So Jesus is telling the people, if you want to be my disciple, this is what you're going to have to do. This is the cost to follow me. He said, this is the cost to follow me. You're going to have to do this. You're going to have to carry your cross and die daily to follow me. In other words, if you want to come and be my follower, you're going to have to give up some things. You got to give up your own way of thinking, your own way of wanting to do things. He said right here in this particular scripture, he says, is anybody here who wants to build a new house? He said, when you do that, he said, first you sit down and you count up the cost to see if you can finish it. He said, or else you're going to start to build it, and then you're going to get into it and find out that you ran out of money. And then when you run out of money, he said, then you're going to be like, man, what happened? The foundation laid. He said, and you started something that you couldn't finish. It's curious that he likens this unto, he said, counting up the cost. In other words, he's saying, don't just make a snap decision. Many times we make decisions based upon temporary conditions. A lot of times we make decisions based upon our emotions, what we're feeling at the time, what we're going through at the time. We make decisions, we make choices based upon what we're feeling and sensing at this very moment. But Jesus says, no, count up the cost. See if you really, really want this. I want you to want it, but the thing is, I can't make you want it. Is when anything, when we all go to the various stores, we can go in the store and we can all see things that we all like. You see something you like, I see something I like. We all see things that we like based upon tastes and preferences and things like that. But whether or not I buy it depends upon a few factors. Now if you ever seen the TV show Everybody Hates Chris, I'm kind of like the daddy, Julius. If you ever seen the show. I'm like the daddy, Julius. I'm like him, you know, I got like a mental cash register in my mind. When I walk in, I see something, I'm scanning it right there in my mind. Like how they scan it at the self-checkout, I'm scanning my mind. $5.99. Okay. And so when you go in, you know, or let me get it. Have you ever gone into a store, not necessarily so much grocery stores, but a department store like Walmart, Ross, Burlington, places like that? You go in the stores and you get to the cash register and you look at the cash register and you look and you see along the aisle right there by the register, you see a whole lot of stuff that just look like it's just stacked there. And you know that it don't belong there. And you see this stuff, you're like, what are the shoes doing way up here? You see 10 shoes and you see, 10 shoes, because what's actually supposed to be on the shelf is like candy bars, chocolates and things like that. But you see the tennis shoes laying here, you see a shirt laying here, you might see a speaker or a radio or something laying here, and you see all that stuff laying here, you're like, what is all this stuff doing laying right here by the register? That's because, I think it's myself, when you walk into the store, you have your idea on something that you want to buy. And you got your buggy, and you put stuff in your buggy, and you continue shopping, But then, when you get to the register, when that woman or that man, they get to run after, boop, 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 and you do the other, ooh, and or even before that part, sometimes I get to the register and I start looking at my buggy, and you know what? I don't really need them. I like these shoes, but I don't love them. They all right, but I ain't wearing them a couple of times. I don't really like that. And you put it, lay them down, and you give them, can you put this back? Things like that. Because when it comes time to pay for it, it's something about when it comes time to pay for it that it causes you to kind of see it a little bit different. Because see, what happened though? Because see, let's just be real. What happened? Because when I came in and when I put it in the buggy, I wanted it. Or else I wouldn't have put it in the buggy. It didn't just jump off the shelf. I didn't just, they like these cartoons, I didn't just put my buggy by it, just dove off in my buggy. I actually had to reach up on the shelf, grab it, and put it in my buggy. When I put it in the buggy at the time, I wanted it. But something happened between the time I put it in the buggy and between the time it came time to pay for it. Something happened. I got to a point now when it comes time to pay for it. How much you say it is? Oh man, it's $19.99. Oh man. You get that look and start doing like that. No, man, that's all right. No, man, that's all right. Because I've done that many times. Because see, sometimes I go in the store and sometimes you see something that you like and it might even have no price tag. And you're like, you know what? I like this. I like it. And you're like, you know what? I think I'm going to get it. But then you also know, hold on, it's going to also depend on how much it's going to tell me it is. Because I get up front and she gives me something crazy. Well, hold on, when you scan it, because I done it on a price tag, and you get up front, and then when you scan it, boom, whoa, how much that was? Oh, no, I'm sorry, man. I didn't know it. They didn't have no tag, and I didn't know how much they were. Oh, no money, they no tag. You know what I mean? Somebody trying to trick me or whatever. Because once I saw how much it cost, it determined whether or not I really wanted it. Jesus saying, when you come after me, you got to count the cost that you willing to pay. He said, I know the cost that I'm paying for you. I'm giving everything for you. And because I'm giving everything for you, I'm expecting you to give everything for me. See, Napoleon understood, because Napoleon said, he said that we founded our empires on force. Jesus Christ founded his upon love. God said in John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. It was because of love. See, the thing that Jesus was the only person, he said, that's why Napoleon King said, there is no comparison, because Jesus was the only one who could make this demand. Because if anybody else said you got to give up everything and follow me and put me first, it would be idolatry. But because Jesus is and was and is God, he can make this command. He can make this demand, because when you give up everything to follow him, you follow God. So, now any other person that tell you to give up anything and follow them, Paul said, follow me as I follow Christ. If I stop following Christ, y'all not following me. How fast it is follow. See, the thing is, he's saying count up the cost. Count up the cost. Because see, many things we want, but then it's also going to depend on how much it costs, whether or not we buy it. Everybody, when we go into stores, we can go into some of the higher-end stores, we can go into the Saks Fifth Avenues, places like that, all these high-end upscale schools. You can see a lot of stuff that you like. I'm like going to a certain place with my wife, and just being honest, but I go to certain places, and we walk in certain stores, she's like, hey, let's go in here. And I look at the name store, I'm like, so what? Because I'm already knowing. Hey, I ain't paying nobody. I'm not putting button up out here. You know, I'm like, this stuff, you want to go in? And she was like, I just want to look and I just want to see. And I'm like, that's fine. You know, I'm like, but in my mind, to tell you the truth, it's just how I think. In my mind, I'm like, it's a waste of time. Keep walking over here, all this stuff costing hundreds up into thousands of dollars. I'm like, yeah, baby, I love you. You know what I'm saying? But we ain't done yet. You know what I'm saying? I would love to be able to, but we're not there yet. You know, so we walk in, and in my mind, I'm like, man, it's just a waste of time. We walking, we looking, and one day I'm looking for the price. I'm just laughing. You know, I'm just laughing like, how much? Woo, these people, wow. You know, I'm just like, the thing is, it's because I'm not willing to pay these costs. But the store is in business. And the store is flourishing. Why? Because there are people who are willing to pay these prices for these products. See, Jesus says, if you want to come after me and be my disciple, if you want to be my disciple, this is the cost. See, the thing is, you can come and you can be a follower but not be a disciple. There are people who want to come and they want to follow Jesus. The Bible says that crowds follow Jesus. They followed him everywhere he went, but everybody wasn't his disciple. You had a lot of people that wanted to keep on coming and keep on listening. And listen, that's fine, that's great. But they weren't willing to pay the price to enter into that deeper relationship. There are a lot of people, it's kind of like when I go into certain stores and I'm walking around and I'm trying to make my mind up if or what I want to buy. And people come by and say, can I help you? And I said, no, I'm just looking. I'm just looking. Because I see things that I like and I see things that pique my curiosity, but I haven't made up my mind on whether or not I want to buy it or not. So I'm going through my mind, and what do we do when we shop it? What do? We're going in our mind, how much do I have to spend? How much am I willing to spend? How much am I willing to pay for it? If I see something I like, this is my budget. And then every now and then, just be real, every now and then you go in the store and you see something that you like, man, I don't care. I'll just put this deal off. You see something, you like, oh, hold on. How much is it? Oh, it's a little bit much, but I want it. I want it. I want it. And you're like, man, I know it's a little bit, ooh, I ain't gonna pay. Ooh, I know I don't need to buy this. Oh,
want it. I want it because you saw something that you wanted and you were willing to pay the price. And even though you knew this is really going to fit in your budget, you're like, you know what? I'm going to put this deal off. I'll call them, tell my family in 2 weeks or whatever. This right here. But I'm going to go and get this. We've all been there. We've all been there. Because we saw something that we were willing to pay for. Jesus says, why won't you pay the cost that I'm asking for you? Why won't, when you think about it, why is it that we put things back on the shelf? We put things back on the shelf because when we get to the register, when we get to where it's time to actually pay for it, we realize how much it's actually costing. Because sometimes it don't really register to you, just be honest. It don't really register to you until you actually get ready to pay. You can know how much it costs, and you can have the budget with all this stuff, and I've done this many times too. While you're shopping, you know, you kind of add stuff up in your head, but then sometimes you forget something, you know, and then you like, you know, okay, $6.99, okay, $6.99, okay, $5, okay, and you get ready, okay, I think I got about $6 stuff, and you add $130, $130, you like, hold on, and you start looking, hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, oh, I forgot about that. Oh, I forgot about that. And now I'm sitting here now, I got to make a decision. Do I want to pay this cost or do I want to try to put something back? Many times what happens is I'll make a decision and I'll decide to put back what I consider to be the least important thing that I wanted. Why is it many times we'll put Jesus back on the shelf? When it comes time to when it comes for the things that we really, really want, many times Jesus is the one that gets put back on the shelf. We get to the spiritual register in life and we sit and look, okay, that's what I want to do right there. I'm going to do that. I'm telling them I'm going to do that. And then I want this right here. And I want, and the Lord say do this, you know what? Come on. Can you put that back over there where it comes? I'm sorry, man. Can you put that back for me? Can you put what you said right back right for me right now? I don't want that right now. What we tell them, I'm gonna come back for that. I'm gonna come back for that. That's what we tell ourselves. I'm gonna come back for it. Yeah, just put it back. I'm gonna come back for that. I'm gonna come back for it. I'm gonna get it next week. Right. And what the truth really, most of the time, we don't go back and get it. Right. I tell myself many times, yeah, I'm gonna get this week, I'll get that next week. But when it comes next week, I'll come back and get it. Why? Because as I go back along, as I go back to my regular life and go back to doing the things that I was regularly doing, that right there is gone. Once I walk out this door, it's pretty much gone out of my mind. Same thing that happens with Jesus. Many times if we don't, in that moment, choose what he's saying, and we put it back on the shelf and go do our own thing, we get down the road and we tell ourselves, I'm going to get back on track. We tell ourselves, Lord, I know you have, but I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to get it next week. I'm going to pick it back up next week. But what happens is next week turns into 2 weeks. 2 weeks turn into a month. Month turns into 3 months, 6 months, a year. And the longer we continue to go along this same cycle, we get way down the line, way down the road, and realize, man. And then somebody asks me, man, did you say you go get them shoes? Oh, man, you know what? I forgot all about them shoes. You go back in that store a year later, and the shoes still sitting there. Man, I remember those shoes. I'll go get them shoes last year. And you see them now, you're like, man, you know what? Now you may not feel the same way about the shoes that you felt at the time. At that time, you thought you really wanted them. Now you see them now, you're like, oh, they don't even go with nothing I got no more. And so now you don't even want. It's the same thing sometimes we do with Jesus. At the time, we seem like we really, really want it. Because sometimes I'm going through something. Sometimes I'm going through something, I want it right now. Lord, I need you right now. Lord, help me right now. Lord, be with me right now. And I want it. But then sometimes I get down the road and it seems like I'm good. And I'm like, nah, well, you come by if you want to. Well, you can come out if you want to, Lord. I mean, I'm here. I'm here, Lord. If you want to come, I'm coming. But I don't really sense the urgency that I used to sense. Because now I'm in a better place than I was then. So I don't sense the need to be so urgent about seeking his face now. Because now I'm all right now. I'm all right now. So I don't really need him now because I'm feeling good in my body. Money look pretty good, things like that. Things are going pretty good. So I don't really feel like I need the Lord like I used to need the Lord. But the fact of the matter is, we always need the Lord. I need the Lord not only to obtain, but I need the Lord in order to maintain. Because see, you have to be able to maintain what you obtain. And the thing is, many times, I only want to buy him. I only want to pay the cost when I'm trying to get there. After I feel like I'm decent, I don't want to pay it no more. See, the thing is, when they say a hungry person, when you're hungry, it's a certain desire that you have. When you're really, really hungry, you'll eat certain things that you might not eat when you're not as hungry. Like I told you before, being a former alcoholic, drinker, things like that, smoking all that like that, you can, when your body, when you put all those alcohol and drugs in your body has a hunger. Your body can have a hunger. Man, you like, man, look here, I got to eat something. You know what I'm saying? You know, you get to a point, you like, man, I don't really care what it is. You know, it ain't got to be. You not. There are things that you want to eat, but then there are a lot of things that you wouldn't eat. If somebody gave you a sirloin, you would eat it. You eat it. When you got that drunk and that high hungry, you would eat anything from a sirloin to Williams chicken. It don't even matter. If somebody come and gave you a 9-ounce T-bone, you eat it. But if they come and hand you a 2-piece or whatever, Williams chicken, you're like, oh, you're gonna eat that too because you got that hunger. You're willing to do whatever it takes to feed that hunger, to quench that desire. But then again, there's another thing that we say that when you just want something to eat. Because like Ashley, she got that bad. She's like, oh, Daddy, I'm hungry, I'm not gonna eat. Like, girl, you know how I'm thinking, that's my mama giving me a little, I'm afraid that I'm going to in the pantry. We out of food all of a sudden. You know, somebody comes to me, I'm like, girl, what you talking about? We ain't got nothing to eat. Look at that, some beef stew, chicken, ramen noodles, all that. Girl, like, girl, we got lunch, we got chips, bread, girl, we ain't got nothing to eat. No, you just want something in particular to eat. But you're not hungry. Oh, I'm really hungry. You're not. Because you're really hungry, you're going to go over here and eat what's in here. Because you're willing to do whatever it takes to feed this hunger. So when you get hungry enough, you're going to eat what's in here. But when you're not that hungry, you'll be willing to hold out for something that you really want. That's what you feel is better than what you got right here. We do God the same way. I say I'm really, really hungry for God, but then when God come through, I'm not as hungry as I thought I would. You know, it's kind of like when you tell your mom, oh, I'm hungry. And she's like, well, okay, that was some chili. Go ahead, fix me something to eat. And she's like, well, I thought you said you were hungry. I am. Well, I just gave you some chili. No, why? Because I wanted McDonald's. I wanted McDonald's. In my mind, I thought that's what you were going to do, give me McDonald's. I told you I was hungry, so I thought you would give me McDonald's. You come fix me a bowl of chili. Now, that's food, but I don't want to eat that. That's really not what I want. I was hungry, I wanted something to eat, but I wasn't hungry enough to eat what you gave me. We do God the same way. God, I want you, I need that. God come to, God said, here I am. I'm like, Lord, not that. Lord, not that. Lord, not no chili. Lord, I thought you were going to come through with this kind of blessing. He said, I'll wait. Then what did my mom say? Well, you're not hungry. You just want something to eat. Because there's a difference. Because when you're really, really hungry, whatever is put in front of you, you'll eat. I've been there. And when you get that hunger, man, I tell you something real, like you put together, and when you get to eating, man, when you get to eating, you look at everything like, okay, you look at combination, you know, because you like, because all these things and then vegetables look all right, but then when you look at combination, everything you put together, you're like, I had onions off the turnip rings, that don't even sound right. Onions off the turnip rings, crackers, sardines, bologna, and ramen noodles. You're like, what kind of meal is that? But it's what I had, and I felt good when I got to eat. And now I look back, I'm like, I can't believe I ate that. But I'm full now. And because I'm full now, I look back on it differently. Because I'm not as hungry as I was then. That's the thing. Are we as hungry spiritually as we were back then? Because see, when you're really hungry, whatever they tell you, you're going to pay. And whatever they tell you, you're going to pay when you really, really want it. But the thing is, if you're not as hungry, when they give you the price, you're like, ooh, nah, that's too much. I don't want it that bad. That's all right. Go on and put it back. Many times, Jesus said right here, he said, when you want to be my disciple, this is the cost and this is the requirement for being my disciple. You're going to have to give up your ways. He said, don't start building a house and then get halfway and run out of money. In this particular context, us running out of money is running out of desire. You're running out of desire. There are many things you start off really, really wanting to do, but then when you start getting off into it, and you like, man, you know what, this is going to be a little bit more than I thought it was going to be. This is going to require a little bit more effort than what I thought it was going to require. This is going to require, oh man, you know what, I want to get there, but man, this ain't, I'll use myself as an example. And my wife will tell you, many times I've been trying to lose weight. Y'all heard me talk about it many times. And then I got a treadmill in the house and collecting a whole lot of dust. It's a good treadmill, I just don't use it. It can work if I used it. And there are times when I have the desire, you know what? Today's the day. I'm going to start back and I'm going to get on it back and I'm going to go 20 miles. And by the summertime, I'm going to have a 6-pack. And I get all that in my mind. And I'm like, man, this is it. Man, you wait till they see me in 6 months. And I got my, I can get those. And about 3 days, I'm going to go get me some donuts. Why? Because I ran out of desire. I ran out of desire. You start off good, you're like, man, I'm going to go, I'm going to do this, and you get all these things in your mind, and I start off and then along the way. That's all right. That's all right, because I run out of desire. But why did I run out of desire? I didn't have to, but I did. Why do we run out of desire along the way? Why is it that we run out of the thing that we had so much of in the beginning? Why is it that my fervor and my urgency is not the way it used to be? Why is that? It's because I no longer see it the same way that I saw it in the beginning. I no longer have the same feeling about it that I used to have back then. It ain't about that. Because they're the same shoes that were there last week. Them shoes ain't changed. Same outfit that was there last week. But I wanted it then, but I don't want it now. Same things that we used to want then, we see them now, you're like, I don't feel the same way. Why is it that I see Jesus differently now than I did back then? Why do I see God's ways differently now than I did back then? Why do I not have the same fervor and urgency for God now that I used to have back then? Is it because now I'm in a better place? Or is it now because I'm in a worse place? Because see, sometimes it actually goes the other way. Sometimes when I start going through, I start pulling away. That's a natural reaction sometimes we have, thinking that I have to get myself together before things like that. Oh, I can't come to God like this. I got to get myself together first. No, I cannot get myself together, because if I could get myself together, then I wouldn't need him. See, the rationale there is kind of like, let me go take a shower so I can take a bath. I can't get in the bath when I take a shower. How am I take a bath when I'm dirty? That's the kind of rationale. You see, it's laughable. It makes no sense, but that's the same thing it is when I say I got to get myself together before I come to church, before I come to God. No, God said, come to me and I will get you together. You come to me, sell out for me, and I will get you together. You won't have to worry about that. I will do it for you. But here's the cost. Here's how much it's going to cost. See, God said, I'm going to let you know my price tag. I'm gonna let you live a price. You ain't gonna because I don't want you to make an emotional decision. I don't want you to get to the register and then be like, how much is it? Because see, we all want salvation, but then we may not know the price tag. I don't want you to get to the register and be like, getting ready to give up my, hold on, what the preacher say? What did he say? Do what now? Do what? Hold on, bro. I didn't hear that part. I didn't hear you say heaven. Now the other stuff, I don't know about that. We got to rethink some things. But the thing is, many times we think that we're losing stuff, but we're really not losing it. He said, if you try to hold on to your life, you're really going to lose it anyway. He said, whatever you think you're losing, you're actually not losing. He said, you try to hold on, whatever you try to hold on to instead of me, you're going to lose that anyway. You try to lose your life. He said, you think you lose your life? He said, but you're not. Anybody, he said, whatever you give up for my sake, all that's going to be given back to you. Whoever thinks that he's losing these things, you're not. When you come after me, you're going to get all of that and more. You just think that you're losing some things because you're looking at it through the wrong eyes. See, the thing is, we're giving up ownership to enter into stewardship. What's the difference? I'm giving up the things that I have to accept the things that I'm being given. In other words, I'm no longer going to depend on me to get it. I'm going to depend on God to give it to me. And I know that everything that I own, everything that I will have, will be because he gave it to me. And I will look at myself now as his steward and as his manager, rather than all this is mine. And I have to go get it myself. Because I understand that I'm giving it up, Lord, for your sake. So anything that you give to me will be from you. See, the rich young ruler, the Bible said that he went away very sad because he had, not necessarily because he was rich, because the Bible says, I believe Amplified says, because his trust was in his riches. His trust was in his riches. Because see, we see rich spiritual men throughout the Bible. Solomon, King David, these were all rich men. Abraham, these weren't poor men, these were all rich men. But the thing is, they understood their trust was not in their riches. I'm blessed to be a blessing, but God gave me all this. I'm his steward over what he blessed me with. And I would gladly understand, like Paul said, we talked about several weeks ago, Paul said, I understand, I finally learned the lesson of how to be content in all situations. Whether I'm balling, whether I'm crawling, whether I'm on top or I'm on the bottom. I finally learned, he said, because I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. That's the secret right there. See, when we got God, we got it all. We have to see it like that. When we got God, we got it all. But many times, what happens when I want to come to God, I start thinking about the physical things and the material things and my habits and things like that. I start thinking about all these things that I may have to change and that's going to be changing about my life. And I'm like, it causes me to be apprehensive about God. I'm like, you know what, God? I want this, but in comparison to what I'm doing, in comparison to what I have right now, how do I feel about that? And I end up putting Jesus on the shelf. Because when it comes time to pay for it, I'm like, well, you know what, Lord, I do love you and I do want you, but these things have been so ingrained in my life to a point where I can't see myself living without it. I can't see myself going and living without doing these things because I've been doing it for so long. I can't see myself being a different way because I've been this way for so long. I can't see myself ever having a different mindset because this is how I've been for so long. And the enemy tricked us into thinking that because we've been like this for so long, that that's the only way we can ever be. But the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. No matter how I've always been before, that's not how I always have to be. No matter what I've gone through before, that does not define what I can be. No matter what I faced before, no matter the choices I've had before, no matter how I lived my life before, that does not have any bearing on how I can be. Because the Bible tells me, it says that they that are in Christ are a new creation. He says the old is passed away and all things have become new. So it does not matter about my past. It does not matter about how I used to be, how I used to think, what I used to do, what I used to anything. None of those things matter at all when I come to God. When I come to God, God said, when you come to me, I'm going to make you brand new. I'm going to make you brand spanking new. In other words, you ain't got to worry about none of that old. When you come and you lay down everything for me, I'm going to rebuild you. From the inside out. From the inside out. You won't have to worry about anything. Just let me do it. Just let me do it. You don't worry about it. You just come to me and be willing to do whatever I tell you. Be willing to sell out for me because I sold out for you. He said, Jesus said, I gave my life for you on the cross. So he is the only one who can demand the same thing in return. He said, I did it for you. Will you pick up your cross every day and come after me? The same way that I picked up my cross and came after you. Will you do the same thing for me? But you have to make a decision on how much you're willing to pay. See, we all have our own price tags on what we're willing to pay. We all, if we were all on a game show, or we were all on a particular game show or whatever, and they bought an item in, and they said, you can have it, but what's the most you willing to pay for this? Now, each one of us would have a price in our own head of how much we'd be willing to pay for whatever this item was. Some of it, if you bought it like a certain kind of car, whatever, some would say, well, I'm willing to pay this amount for it. I'm willing to pay this amount for it. I'm willing to pay this amount for it. And we all would have our own set of amounts. But we would all be willing to pay a certain amount, and we wouldn't be willing to go over that. Jesus said, when it comes to me, there should not be an amount where you say you won't go over. Because I gave everything for you. So you should be willing to give everything for me. But the thing is, he said, here's the caveat. You think that you may be giving everything for me? But he said, but when you're willing to give everything for me, I'm going to give it back to you. Like we said before, we're giving up ownership of stewardship. Whatever you think you're losing, you're not losing. You're going to gain it, but now it's not going to be in your name. Can you handle that? He said, when you're a wise steward, you're going to be a steward over what I'm going to give you, but you have to give it up for my sake. Because he said, there's nobody who's given up any of these things that I'm not going to give it back to you. But when you look at these things like you're losing them, you're going to lose them anyway. Like we said last week, a seed's purpose is to put it in the ground. The seed don't do you no good in your hands. You can think you got watermelons, but you ain't got watermelons, you got watermelon seed. But in your mind, you got watermelons. But if you get to a point where you're so connected to that watermelon seed that you're not willing to put it in the ground, you're not going to have watermelons. And anything that I'm holding on to, and I see it as if I can't put it in the ground. I can't let it go. What if I don't see these seeds no more? What if I don't see these seeds? What if I put my seeds in the ground and they don't grow? This is what they're supposed to do. God said, when you sow it for my sake, I'm going to cause it to grow. You don't worry about it. You just sow your life for my sake. I'm going to cause it to sprout. But if I see my life as when I sow it, I'm losing it, I can't sprout. If you see your life as something that you cannot let go of, for Jesus' sake, he said, I can't cause it to sprout. That seed in your hand will never become the fruit that you're looking for if you never put it in the ground. If I see it as losing it, he said, if you see it as losing it, you're not going to gain. But here's the thing, he said, you're going to lose it anyway. But if these seeds in my hand, I never sowed it, I done lost the seed anyway. I think I'm holding on to it, I think I'm gaining because I never sowed it, but I'm never going to have what it's supposed to produce. If you see your life as something that you want to hold on to and not sow it for the kingdom's sake, he said, you're never going to have what it's supposed to produce anyway. So you've already lost anyway. You think you gain, but you know, you lose it because you're not going to have what you're supposed to have. What I meant for you to have. But you have to be willing to pay the cost. Be willing to pay the cost. Don't see it as loss because it's not loss. It's gain. But you have to believe that. Amen? Amen. That's our message on today. We just ask you to stand on your feet right now. Because it's all about perspective. It's all about perspective. The same thing that I won't be willing to pay for, somebody else comes along, they say, how much they want for that? And I tell the price, that's all? And they like, oh man, they just look like they bought it. And I look at them like, you gonna pay that for that? Why is that? Because they see it differently than I see it. They see it like, man, that's all they want for that. Oh, I got to have that. You see people all the time. You follow Jesus? Yeah, I follow Jesus. But and you want to do that? And you got other people that like, no, I won't love them. I can't do that. And I can't. Why? Price tag. Price tag. You tell them, they like, I want it, but no, I ain't willing to pay that much for it. I'll do this, but I ain't willing to pay that. Why? Perspective. We see the same thing, but we willing to pay different prices for it. God said, what's the price tag that you willing to pay? Are you willing to pay the cost that I'm telling you right here? Or you got your own price in mind? Because see, the thing about God, God said, this ain't the swap meet. We ain't considering bargain. We're not considering, we're not gonna go back and forth. I said 50, you said 25, we're gonna meet somewhere 38, 50. We ain't gonna do that. God said, I said 50, I'm gonna walk off. You come back to me when you got 50. We ain't gonna talk about nothing else. God, Jesus said, this is my price. You should be willing to do whatever I tell you to do, but you gotta see it a certain way. You can't see, when you see the price tag a certain way, and you think that you're giving up all this, you're not gonna pay it. But when you see it the right way, oh, now I see, then you be willing to pay. Amen. You're gonna pray, Father God, we just thank you for this word. Dear Lord God, we thank you for every single word that you spoke to us, Father. We pray, Lord God, that something was said that piqued our interest, Lord God, piqued our curiosity, Lord God, piqued our spiritual maturity towards you, Lord God. We just thank you, Father God, for continue to grow us, increase us, Lord, in every area, every avenue of our lives, Lord God. In Jesus' name we pray, Lord God. Amen.